I am Kit, and this is me 25 weeks on low-dose testosterone and finasteride. The changes this week have again been pretty negligible from last week. My voice is still in the androgynous range. It may have bumped up a little bit. I did take a second screenshot on the app this week to show what the app is analyzing to find my range. It's kind of interesting. It shows, my pitch is mostly down below, but it shows these like spikes way up high. I don't particularly know that when I'm reading the prompt, my voice goes up and down or something, but it's catching something, and I'm wondering if those little spikes are affecting much. It was just interesting to see what it might be recording instead of just like the average it's reading. Just cutting in here, a little add-on that I forgot to mention by the time I was done making my 14-minute video, and I didn't want to re-record it just to add this in, but it's something I'm really excited about, so I wanted to make sure I said it this week. I have noticed that my singing voice has changed. I usually listen to audiobooks in the car, but I ran out of my audiobook this week and had forgotten to put the next one on my phone. So I was listening to music and I was singing along, and I was like singing in the low range. Like usually I can only hit, I'm a it's called mezzo. It's between alto and soprano is where my usual singing voice is. But I was singing along and I'm singing these deep notes in the masculine range, and it was giving me gender euphoria because even though I don't sound masculine yet, my singing range has deepened, has gone down, and that's just really exciting to note that the T is, I know it's been working. I can hear it's been working, but that's kind of a fun side effect that I hadn't particularly expected. I hadn't thought about it. It makes sense, once you think about it. And people are always asking, how does my singing voice change on T? But, personally, it's not something that I was thinking much about in effect, what the effects are going to be. So it was just kind of neat that I can still sing my mezzo range, but now I can also sing like a alto range, deeper. So I just wanted to add that in here. In my video for the week. My facial shape, I haven't noticed much of a change. My body, I have, it's been about a month since I measured myself. So that's my cat. She's going to come for a visit. So I decided to check my measurements again. Yes, kitty, please get out of the way. I decided to check my measurements again just to see what's going on. My diet, I have changed a little bit in the last few weeks. I'm not going on as strict a calorie restriction anymore. I'm going on a restriction based on my ideal weight. So the progress will be slower, but eventually I'm thinking if, I stick to these calorie requirements instead of the ones I have at my unknown current weight, I don't know what it's changed to between the increased muscle and the decreased fat ratio. But I figure if I go with what is suggested for my ideal weight, I'll eventually get down there. So it's been a lot less stressful that way. Like on work days, I give myself more allowance to eat more because, I've been doing a lot of hard work. So my body has been changing very minimally in the last month. My waist has gone down a little bit, which is sort of where I'm most concerned about my weight being. My hips did not lose anything, so I don't know how the T fat redistribution is going to work if, I'm not losing weight where women usually carry their weight. My muscle mass, I had a little bit of weightlifting this week. We were tearing off a roof and I was carrying chunks of roof around. Nothing too strenuous, nothing that really tested my strength this week. My Finasteride is still doing its thing. No facial hair, body hair, balding, or bottom growth that I can notice. My acne has been fairly mild, neutral. Couple of spots the last couple days. Got something on my cheek right now that feels like it's going to pop out eventually, but it's not coming out right now. I haven't noticed a change in my skin thickness or the oiliness of it. My body scent still hasn't changed much. It's, more prominent now that it's hot out. But, but that's just par for the course with the weather. My mood has been relatively stable. I'll get to that in a moment. Again, there's been no depression or manic episodes. So that again is due any week now, but it's not coming yet. My social dysphoria hasn't been very active. In fact, where I was uncomfortable going out with my they them pin before, now I'm disappointed in myself when I forget to put it on when I go out. I was going to the mall to get some new clothes, this shirt in fact, and I was walking into the mall without my purse because I didn't want to carry that around with me, and I was like, wait, my pin, shit, I forgot it in my car. There was that. There was one incident when I went to buy some new tools, and with to check out, they called me, she needs some help getting her stuff to the car. And I was like, shit, I don't have my pin on. Fuck, this would have been an excellent situation to have my pin on because I was working with one of the employees to find my stuff for quite a while. And it would have been nice if that employee had gendered me correctly at the end. But my bad for not wearing my pin. It's interesting that has changed so much for me, where I was afraid to go out in public with that visible to now I prefer to go out in public with it. My body dysphoria hasn't been bothering me at all. Again, that has dissipated somewhat since getting my new clothes. Somewhat related to that, this week I did get a voucher for some gender-affirming products at a local queer store, so I did go order myself 2 new binders. They didn't have exactly what I wanted in stock, but it should come in the next couple weeks. I think the one I have now isn't necessarily binding as well as it could, and I want something that might make me flatter. And I found out why, just how difficult binders can be to get in and out of when they're the right size, because the one I got, I didn't know exactly what size I was looking for, and I didn't know how tight it was supposed to be. And it turns out binders are actually supposed to be practically an exercise program in itself to get in and out of 12 times. So that was a process. When it comes to my mood again, this week I sort of jumped in feet first with the concept of trying to buy my own place. I've been living in this apartment for about 2.5 years, almost 3 years, and it's had a mold problem the whole time. The landowners sort of covered it up, painted it over, and I've kept an eye on it, and it's only, come out again once in this time. It's probably about time for me to go check the hidden corner of my bedroom that it tends to pop up in. But I was only planning to stay here about 6 months, and it's been 2.5 years because housing around here is absolutely abysmal. It is so expensive and so rare that I was just lucky to be able to get this place when I did. But I was like, what about buying my own place? So a little manufactured home. And there's a whole process to that when the home isn't on land you own as well. And anytime I think about moving, even if it's just, across the town to a new place, it always stresses me out. And I sort of, didn't consider that when I started this process. I just saw a place that had a cheap price and I was like, hey, why don't I just look? Let's just see what it looks like. And then, the whole loan process was a headache and a half to figure out because it can't get a traditional loan. And then because I've had low work hours the last 6 months, the loan company's like, yeah, we can't give you anything right now until you prove you have regular hours. You need at least this many hours per week at your pay before we can give you a loan. And we need to be able to be sure that it's going to, stay consistent. And I'm like, well, shit. I sort of got myself into a pickle here, didn't I? So I'm going to have to, really make sure my boss gives me the hours I need. And if I don't, I'm in a union and I'll need to figure out how to supplement my hours with out of company work with the union. I'm eligible for it, but I didn't actually go out for it because I assumed I was going to start getting work and then I didn't. And it was just sort of laziness on my part that I didn't try to get work during the last 6 months that I could have been eligible for. So that's just a process that's going on. I'm sort of in a waiting period right now. I need to get, couple months worth of steady work for the loan application. So I'm preparing in a while to have more stress coming on. So the one other thing that I'm doing that is just sort of vaguely gender related is I've written this novel, this 160,000 word novel, like 300 word document pages, a couple years ago, and I've been planning to make like a video, like an audiobook, a visual audiobook of it. And I keep procrastinating on the pictures because the next one I have to draw, I'm redrawing it. And the first time it was a pain in the ass and I'm just like procrastinating. But I also realized when I wrote it, it was very cis heteronormative. There was no queerness in it at all because at the time I hadn't recognized that part of the community. I was sort of oblivious to that sort of part of the world. And now that I'm in that world, it makes me want to, include that in my artwork, in my creativity, in my writing. So I'm adding some queerness to my story. One of the characters is from a made-up society where it makes sense that they would have more than the two genders, and they have gender-neutral language already. So I'm changing one of the characters' pronouns in the whole back half of the story, and it's quite the little adventure to remember which ones I'm supposed to use, where I've sort of made cheat sheets that if you really think about it, it doesn't necessarily make sense why they'd use the specific type of words they use, but I had to do it for my own sanity to know what I'm supposed to be putting where. So my plan for that story is that maybe next year, if I manage to get, the first three, my goal is the first 3 chapters drawn up, and then I can make like the first 3 chapters of the audiobook and put it online. I'm still trying to decide whether it would be more interesting, make more sense to put it on my main YouTube channel, which is just uploads music that YouTube doesn't have anywhere else, songs from artists, and sort of niche music that I can't actually find anywhere else on YouTube. Or if it makes sense to put it on this channel. I know that this channel is for people who are following my transition, but it is personal to me, and it does have sort of a trans coming out or trans, the issues trans people face being different in a world where people don't accept you because you are not just like them. And it can sort of have a trans allegory to it, and that would make sense to fit with my trans here YouTube channel. So I don't know if people might comment on that and say, that would be something I'd be interested in. So that is what I'm, that's a long video for not a lot of changes this week. I always add the stuff at the end in case people are like, okay, I just want to be here to know what your transition's like, and then your life story is like, that's fine. I don't need to know about that stuff. But if people were interested, in my life story and stuff, it's kind of neat that, people are interested in what I have to say. So that is all for this week, and I will talk to you again next week.